Welcome to the newest episode of the Needless Things podcast. I am your host, Dave West, and tonight we are talking about not just the 1975 classic Jaws, but everything having to do with Jaws. And I've assembled a crew that are all qualified to hit the open ocean in our tiny little dinghy and discuss this shark phenomenon. First, let me welcome award-winning Bobby Nash.
Hi there. Hi there. Y'all know me. You know how I make my living.
Getting money thrown at you.
I've got my crackers. I've got my Nagasaki beer. I am ready to go.
Whoa, have you got the legit beer?
I have the
nice. Oh, you've got the little stress toy. I can't imagine why a writer would need a stress toy. That doesn't make any sense to me.
It's really cool though. The company that makes the beer though made these, which is awesome.
Well, from what I understand, they love being included in everything. More on that in a bit. Also joining us tonight, our Rear Admiral Rebecca Perry. Welcome back.
Ahoy, Captain. Glad to be here.
And finally, First Mate Mike Gordon.
I wish I had a chalkboard so I could say, howdy.
Oh, that would have been nice. So, obviously, we are in the 50th anniversary of JAWS, as Amazing. All of the social medias and marketing materials and whatever else have let us know. We're going to be talking about the original movie. We're going to be talking about the sequels, the merchandising, really just anything that comes to mind related to JAWS. We're going to talk about here and just see how long we go. I told Bobby before we started, I'm betting more than an hour here because there is a lot to cover. We're not going to be hitting anything from like a documentary or informational type aspect because there's so much out there. Like everybody knows how to Google Jaws. Mostly we're going to be talking about memories, about things we enjoyed about the franchise or whatever. It's going to be a very like sort of personal retrospective type thing, but we will lay down some dates and some facts and whatever from time to time just to give the proper context. But we'll start off with a little personal recollection, and it doesn't necessarily have to be the first movie because I know at least a couple of us did not see the 1975 film first. We'll start with Mike. Mike, when I hit you up about doing this live stream, what was your thought and what was your first experience with giant sharks?
Giant sharks. Okay, so I didn't see the movie when it was first in theaters, so I can't say that I had that experience because I was 8. so yeah, that wouldn't have been something that would have happened. But I was aware of it. I mean, it was impossible not to be aware of Jaws in 1975, 1976. Like, it just was huge. It was the biggest thing that was around. And sharks were a thing back then too. I think, and I have to believe
have been a thing for a very long time now.
Yeah, but I don't know if they were as prominently featured and talked about as much before Jaws.
No, I think the book changed
I was
everything.
Gonna say, the book, yes, and the book I think is what makes Jaws the movie more than just a Universal monster movie, right? Like it's like they put a lot of money into it. I don't think they didn't mean to put as much money into it as they did, but they did put a lot of money into it at the time, and it was a big A movie release. And I mean, you have Richard Dreyfuss in it, and you have Roy Scheider in it. You don't hire those guys if you're just making a B picture.
Yeah.
So,
and certainly Robert Shaw was probably the biggest name there.
And
in 75,
yeah, probably. And so yeah, it was a big deal. I don't know when I actually got a chance to see it. It was probably on TV, pan and scan with commercials and everything like that. So, to be honest with you, those memories are just gone. They're not there. I'm pretty sure I would have seen the first one. As far as the other movies goes, I've seen the second one. I do believe I did see the third one in 3D in the theater, and then I tapped out. I was done. Didn't see any more of them. And in order to
wait, so you haven't seen the fourth at all?
At all. And I probably will continue not to see it. Unfortunately,
come on.
And rewatch things like Superman 4 and other movies that I missed at the time. And you know what? I think I'd, just assume rather watch Jaws again. Which I did, by the way, this week in honor of the 50th, as well as doing this podcast. And I revisited Jaws 2, which is a movie I hadn't seen in decades. So I did rewatch both of those. And then even though they're all available on Peacock, I stopped there.
Wow.
So
wow.
I'd be really curious to see if you can convince me to give them a watch. But yeah, I mean, look, I think before we were recording, Bobby was like, I'm not sure what it is about Jaws, but I just love it so much. And the fact is, it's like there's what's not to love. It's like it's one of the biggest, best movies of all time. And it's a seminal event. If you could put a pin in something, like if there were actually moments of time that actually, you couldn't change, fixed points, as they called them, the release of Jaws is one of those, because what comes after it changes everything changes after.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because Jaws in 75. Well, so Jaws was released in 1975 based on the 1974 novel by Peter Benchley, directed by a young filmmaker, Steven Spielberg.
His second movie.
But it is really the first summer blockbuster.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I don't think that it was exceeded. Its success was exceeded until Batman in 1989.
Well,
Star Wars.
I was going to say a little movie called Star Wars a couple years later kind of just whooped its butt.
But was Star Wars, didn't it take a little time to get the momentum?
No.
Or
No,
it was huge right out of the gate?
Yeah.
No,
it was
Star
Wars
they were lining up like the day of. I mean, Star Wars was a phenomenon all to itself. Jaws proved that it was possible to have a summer box office, because at the time the studios were like, nobody goes to the movies in the summer. They're always on vacation. They're at the beach.
Right.
Even Spielberg to this day talks about like how it was amazing that people were going to see Jaws that summer instead of going to the actual beach.
Oh, and you know what? Star Wars was not released in the summer.
Well,
I stand by what I said.
It's the summer movie season now.
Yeah.
The summer movie season now starts at the end of, I think, in April, right?
May, I would say May, maybe middle of May, which is about when Star Wars came out. So.
But that's been a Marvel thing where they were experimenting with dropping them early to beat the other summer movies.
Mm-hmm.
So, but regardless,
yeah,
Jaws set a standard.
Set a standard for movies, for blockbusters, for the way studios thought about releasing movies, horror movies, adventure movies. Certainly it changed. If Jaws is not a success, we don't have any Spielberg movies after this.
Right.
So
right.
This is his second feature. He had done some TV, his second feature, and obviously the way the story goes is that it broke everybody who was making this movie. I know you said we weren't going to get in the weeds of it, but the making of this movie, I think, is almost as fascinating as the movie itself. It's just a great story. And so I'm gonna take this out because I think it's worth, among all the documentaries, but the Jaws log by Carl Gottlieb is a must read.
Mm-hmm.
Must read. He wrote the screenplay for the first one and the second one too, I believe.
And he's in them. He plays the
right.
the reporter, the town reporter.
Yeah, so good books there, and yeah, great stuff. That's it. Just, and it changed me, because watching this today is still, I still learn from it, storytelling wise. It still teaches me. There's still a lot in this movie to 50 years later.
So I think the first one I saw was actually when I was 7 years old. Saw Jaws 3D in the theater. I'm pretty sure both my parents were there and a number of my friends. It might have been somebody's birthday or something, but I remember it being this huge event that it was going to be in 3D. Because at 7 years old, I didn't really know anything about 3D movies. It had been years, I think, since there had been anything 3D. I know Friday the 13th Part 3 came out that same year because there was kind of a 3D revival going on at the time. But this was a huge deal. And then we get to the movie theater, and down the row, the people I'm with are like looking at the fish heads coming out of the screen or whatever else. I've seen nothing. It's just blurry to me. And it's because I've had strabismus ever since I was like an infant. So that kind of 3D, I can't see. So I'm sitting there the whole movie, just like, this sucks. It's just blurry. And then later, I think I saw Jaws 2 next, and it took a while for me to want to watch the first Jaws. I couldn't even tell you once I sat down to watch. I think I didn't see it until it was out on DVD, to be honest. I think it was that late. So we're talking like late 90s, I guess. When Universal put out
the 30th. I have the 30th edition.
Were DVDs out in 95?
Well, I have the I actually
they were new. I think they were new.
Okay.
Yeah.
They were still pretty expensive, I think, at the time. They were
okay. Maybe that's what it was. So, well, yeah, maybe just like VHS, we were renting them before we were buying them. Something along those lines. Because I just remember getting my first DVD player. It was very, very expensive, but they did the you get 5 free DVDs from the specific distributor when you buy your DVD player. But anyway, yeah, I don't believe I saw Jaws in its entirety, like the original one, until it came out on DVD. I know I watched Jaws 2 on like TBS or whatever a lot, and I really liked Jaws 2, and I've got a soft spot for Jaws 3, and we'll get into that. Bobby, what about you?
I actually saw the second one first. I don't remember the year, and because I was 3 when the original came out. So yeah, there was not, and my parents weren't movie people anyway, so that wasn't going to happen.
I'm slowly turning to dust here, Bobby.
Well, it's not often I do podcasts where I'm younger. Yes, I did one last week where I was like 20 years older than everybody else. So this is making me feel good.
Welcome to my world.
Yeah, but I spent the weekend at a cousin's house. It was a birthday or something. There was a party, and then a bunch of us cousins just spent the night on Saturday night, and they had cable, which was a big deal to me because we did not. And Jaws 2 was playing on cable. And I just remember, we're only half watching it because we're a bunch of kids running around like crazy. But I remember when that shark comes out of the water and grabs the helicopter.
Yes.
I was hooked. At that point, I didn't care about anything else. And I sat and I watched it and I loved it. And then it was a few years later before I saw the first one, which was probably on like the ABC Sunday night movie. Which was those were a big deal when I was a kid.
Yeah.
That's how
used to be a thing.
That's how we saw. That's how, because like I said, my parents aren't moviegoers. So that was how I saw most of some of my favorite movies the first time. And if memory serves, Jaws was I think there was stuff in it that wasn't in the theater. I don't have great recollection of that, but I think it was like 3 hours long on Sunday night.
It might have just been due to the commercials.
Well, it could have been, but I do remember there's this, I've seen this scene somewhere of Quint going to the supply store and buying like the piano wire and all that supplies.
Okay, yeah.
So that it could be there, it could be somewhere else. I saw it. I don't know, but yeah.
Well, that's not uncommon though. I mean, for there to be TV cuts of things. There's a TV cut of Halloween 2 that's very well known. Superman's probably the biggest example of a TV version that included
and the first Star Trek movie.
Yeah, because the first Superman movie was a 2-night movie event.
Oh wow, really?
They had so much in there that it ran 2 hours on Sunday and 2 hours on Monday.
Wow.
To get the whole movie. It was like a mini series when they put it in there. Yeah. So and I do recall it too. Like Star Trek the Motion Picture was really long on TV.
Well, it's also really long.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's really, yeah. But
here's an idea. Let's give them more of this.
More of the ship. But yeah, so I saw the first one that way on TV, and it was probably not until VHS or probably VHS when I first saw it uncut, without this pan and scan.
Yeah.
And then blue, obviously DVDs when they were started putting them in box set, or I mean with letterbox. Then it was like, holy crap,
You know what? I'm glad you said that, because it was VHS. It was the 30th anniversary. They released a widescreen special edition VHS.
Yeah.
That's when I first saw it.
And
it wasn't DVD.
And it becomes a whole different movie when you watch it in that letterbox format.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of the just beautifully shot scenes that are just obliterated with the pan and scan.
Yeah. Oh, nothing good about pan and scan.
Yeah.
I'm so glad those days are being past us.
All those old Westerns that, were shot in this beautiful, 60 millimeter, and then you watch them on TV and it's just a square of that. It's so different.
Yeah. And so and I watched it then and I just fell in love with this. And which made me go back and watch. I've seen none of them in the theater except the first one when they re-released it, but it did make me go seek out 3 and 4 on Blu-ray or DVD or probably VHS as well, or cable or something. Yeah.
Well, we'll get deeper into those. And Joe Hunter 73 hanging out in the chat brings up a very good point. Back in the 70s, sharks and quicksand perceived to be massive problems.
Yeah.
I really thought quicksand was going to be a bigger issue when I was older. That and chuds and alligators in the sewers.
Alligators
I thought
in the
at some
sewers.
point I would come across one of those things, and I have not, and I'm kind of disappointed.
Yeah.
No, I'm relieved, because alligator scared me much more than any of the Jaws movies, because that's on land.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right. It's easy to avoid the shark. Don't go in the water.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
But yeah, it's also, I remember too, after Jaws, we started seeing more sharks in movies and stuff. But I remember before that, especially as I got older and looked back at, sharks were big on paperbacks, covers of novels and adventure. There was always a guy fighting a shark under the water. We saw a lot of those type of magazine covers.
So, Rebecca, what was your first Jaws experience?
Like Bobby, I was 3 when the first movie came out, so a little too young to see it. I was aware of Jaws 2. I'm sorry, Mike.
Hey, Mike, I wasn't born.
And poof.
I'm sorry, buddy. I'm sorry.
I am the only one here older than, I'm just about the only one older than Jaws.
Right. I was aware of Jaws 2 because weirdly I had some of the bubblegum cards and stickers.
Oh, nice.
Although I'm pretty sure I didn't, my mom was actually a huge Jaws fan. I'm sure she and my dad went to see it. I'm sure they saw the second one. I don't think they took me, but I do very much remember going to see Jaws 3 in 3D with my parents taking me and thinking it was one of the coolest things I had ever seen. And I was when did it come out?
83.
83.
Yeah.
So I would have been 11. So, what did I know? I was 11. And then I remember right after that, or right around that time, we got our very first VCR, which was a huge deal. And at some point we bought the movie, which could not have been cheap, because I remember back in the day, new movies were like
50,
70,
60
80
bucks.
Yeah, some of them were even 100, I think. So, and I'm sure they didn't pay that much for it, but I do remember and that's when I first saw it, was on the VCR, and just being absolutely blown away, and then went back and watched the second one. And so it's kind of one of those, Jaws is one of those things, it's always been in my life, even before I saw it, I was always aware of it.
Yeah.
And which I think, and it's one of those, signs of being such a pop culture touchstone is, I think even if you've never seen a Jaws movie, if you see the movie poster, that cover, exactly what it is, what it's about.
You've heard lines quoted, and you know what
You
they're
heard
from.
the
Right.
music.
You're going to need a bigger boat.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody knows that line. Yeah, everybody quotes it even if they've never seen it, which is crazy. And then, I remember going to see, I think it was the 40th anniversary when they re-released it in theaters. We were going to see it then, and that was the first time I had seen it on a big screen.
Wow.
And I felt like I was seeing it for the first time, honestly, because I really think it is one of those films that you have to see it on a big screen. You have to see those shots of the ocean and the shark, and a tiny screen does not do it justice.
So, I mentioned earlier the Westerns that got cut down into the pan and scan, and it's funny that Jaws almost has a commonality with those Westerns in that the landscape, the openness plays a role in the feeling of the film, and you essentially have a posse going to hunt down the bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what is it, we could talk for an hour or more just about why Jaws is a perfect movie. I do think it's a perfect movie. I think the characters are perfect. The score, as Mike, as you mentioned, is incredible. Could not be, we honestly, we can't even judge it objectively because all of us, even if we were born before it came out, it has essentially been there for all of our lives to an extent. And at this point, it's such an institution unto itself. I couldn't judge it objectively.
Right, because it's one of those things too. There's a handful of movies like that when they're discussed. When people mention them, they mention them in a way that Star Wars is a good example. Casablanca. I'm sure we could go on and on, but there's a lot of those movies that when people talk about it, there's a reverence. Or they mention something about. It's not just, oh, I like this movie. We go into why it's important. I think. Yeah.
Well, and a good point here in the chat. Mark Harkness says, I was 5 when my parents took me to see Jaws, 6 the following year when they decided I needed to see Grizzly. Great. Neither land or water is safe. But that brings up a good point is that
he was 7 when he went to therapy.
Well, it brings up the point that not only did Jaws spawn a franchise, it spawned imitators, which we'll talk about at the end of our episode here. But not just shark movies, but other like giant out of control animal movies, which honestly, whole other episode because we've already mentioned alligator. So
it's like Jaws with bears. It's like Jaws with.
You know what? My memory here, there is a Needless Things podcast episode about giant out of control animal movies. I'll have to look up what number it is and post it somewhere. But that could be revisited. I think we could freshen up that topic at a later date.
That's the thing though. It's like in the 70s, that wasn't, I mean, there were a lot of B movies about like, Kingdom of the Spiders and, Night of the Lupus, like rabbits attacking. Like these are
Night of the Lepus.
Like, exactly.
Right.
These are like 70s movies that were not like cast with A-list actors. They were B movies because they were just, the monster movie was a thing then. But
Hold on there, buddy. William Shatner was in Kingdom of the Spiders. Are you trying to suggest that he is not an A-list actor?
Look, I love the Shat as much as the next person, but come on. In the scheme of things, like how many Oscars does that guy have?
Yeah.
Clint Eastwood was in They.
So
hey, Steve McQueen was in The Blob.
Yeah.
I mean,
but when they were like before they were, you know what I'm talking about. But
yeah.
anyway, like Jaws becomes like a big thing because because of the best-selling novel, because of Peter Benchley, right? That's what elevates it. The story elevates it, and then what Benchley, who worked on the screenplay, and a lot of other people worked on the screenplay too, notably Carl Gottlieb, like and Spielberg with his direction. What they do is they take this monster movie and I think what this is important. We see this in horror movies. It doesn't work if you don't care that the people that you're following, if they get killed or not.
Right.
And
Right,
here
exactly.
you care. You know, whether it's that beautiful scene I was just reminded of when I watched it the other day of Brody and his son, and his, you know, he's just had the worst
Sitting at
day
the
of his
dinner
life,
Yeah.
table.
sitting at the dinner table,
Yeah.
and you know his son's imitating him, and it turns it around. It's such a beautiful scene, especially as after such a devastating scene. Look, that woman who plays the kid's mom
Oh yeah.
was not a professional. Like she was not she was like someone they got off the street. Like she still lived for a long time in Martha's Vineyard, and yet she nails every scene that
Oh, it's
she's in,
fantastic. And when she
and breaks
slaps
you.
him,
Yeah,
it's
when
heartbreaking.
oh man,
Yeah.
both the scenes where she's looking for the kid, and then
Yeah.
later on when she approaches Brody, is like they're two of my favorite scenes. And then you have the phenomenal scene of the three guys, you know, exchanging battle scars and talking about that. And you don't even care about the shark at that point. You're just invested in these people.
Yeah.
And so when something is going to happen to them, you care. And that's what makes that, I think that's what makes Jaws like as great as it is.
Well, the
Yeah, and I don't.
relationship between the three of them is such an important thing because Quint is so difficult and so abrasive, and there's just absolutely no hope that they're ever going to relate. And then finally, they have that moment, and the audience gets this like, oh, they're all on the same page. They're enjoying each other's company, and then attack.
Boom.
I
Yeah,
mean, it just
exactly.
couldn't have been more perfect to devastate the audience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there is this like short little, just a few minutes where while they're on the ocean, it also stops being a horror movie and becomes this bit of an action adventure thing as they're
Yeah.
chasing the shark,
Mhm.
and the music gets more
Mhm.
playful, and which is a great setup because when it turns around, the shark is back after them. We're back to horror movie territory, and it's subtle to where it's not something I picked up on the first time I saw it. So and that's where multiple watchings of this, I get
Yeah.
stuff
A
all the
testament
time.
to John Williams' great score.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean, it just
Yeah.
really takes
Yeah.
you along for the ride.
yeah.
Yeah,
Like the first time I saw it, the first couple of times, I didn't realize that, I still missed the fake outs when people thought the shark was there because I didn't realize, wait, the music's not playing. So yeah,
Yeah,
stuff like that.
I had the wonderful pleasure and honor of seeing I've seen John Williams a couple of times, but recently, like the last time I saw him when he played Atlanta, Steven was there, and they talked about their journey together, as you know, and this was the second project that they worked on together. And what a great collaboration. I think Jaws was the one that told Steven, like, yeah, I'm going to work with this guy for the rest of my life,
Yeah.
because like it's not a fluke. And that they make a deal about like how important the music is, but do not mistake that for thinking that the music can fix things or override things, because I discovered that when I rewatched Jaws 2, because Jaws 2 has a score by John Williams, but is not directed by Steven Spielberg.
Yeah.
And there's a big difference there.
It's a big difference, but it's before we move on to Jaws 2, and I hate to step on a good segue because that was a great segue, Mike. But obviously Jaws very, very impactful. But before we move on to Jaws 2, I want to acknowledge just the sheer power of the three primary actors in that movie. We've talked about them, but Robert Shaw, Roy Scheider, Richard Dreyfuss, all R's, oddly. But just each one of them gets to shine. It really is a 3-star, like each of them is the main star. They all get to have their moments. They all get to be captivating. They all are essential to the plot. You couldn't remove any of those characters and have things happen the same way. It's again, just the entire movie is just magic. Everything and Mike, as you pointed out, the filming was brutal and did not go as planned, but the finished product just works perfectly.
And
Yeah,
I think,
agreed.
yeah, I think Spielberg noticed that too, because if you notice when the actors' names are put up, it's not one after the other. They're up there, the
It's
three of
all-
them
all
at the same
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, they all share top billing
Mhm.
because they're all important.
Yeah, and they could have very easily made, like especially the character of Quint could have very easily been like a one note like Ahab ripoff. But they, give him such a, I mean, we've talked about the filming and, of course that scene, the Indianapolis scene.
Yeah.
I mean, you really kind of understand in that moment like his trauma and what he's been through and why he is so intent on getting the shark. And it's it's incredible. They could but the fact that they could have very easily just made Roy Scheider the main star and put the other two in the background, but like you said, they gave everybody these really great moments. I mean, you get the scene like you said with Roy Scheider's character, and then you get Hooper. You get him just kind of being like almost the odd man out, like the rich kid, and then he quickly proves that no, he's just as capable as those other two guys, and they all three really shine.
And
Well,
as you pointed out, Dave, much like great westerns, it's really a testament, and it's an interesting dynamic of three different kind of men, like what it means to be like a man,
Right.
and it there's a lot of dynamics going on there, and it's a real maybe, I don't know, forgive me, Rebecca, but maybe it's too much testosterone, but in this case, like this movie like seems to earn that,
Mhm.
No, there is, but it, like you said, you have these it's not like they're all these like super macho, like let's, kill it. They all have very different reasons for wanting to catch the shark. And, they all have very different ways of reacting to what's happening, which I find, really interesting. And you don't see that a lot anymore. You only, you either see the stereotypical, macho action guy, or the, sort of, less, the simpler guy. I'm sorry, I have a cat like that's trying to. I have my own jaws trying to get to me.
You got paws there, right?
Yeah, I've got paws, exactly.
Yeah.
Just hear the music.
Yeah, but also too with these characters too, there is character growth for all of them. They do not all end up in the same place they started. They're not quite the same. I mean, Quint's obviously dead at the end, but certainly Brody is not the same guy he is at the beginning.
And it's
of the
also it's not just a testosterone thing, because they all show vulnerability. They all at different times, for 1975, it's not a dude fest movie. Like there is, like we said, like we get the big scene where they relate.
Yeah, there's a lot of movies in the 70s that were exploring what it meant to be men and women and interacting and all that kind of thing. The 70s was a very experimental time for movies, especially with the major studios. Like things that would be independents or hardly even thought about being made now were being made then. So
yeah,
and guys like Roy Scheider and Richard Dreyfuss were at the forefront of a lot of those movies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you didn't see a lot of guys sharing their emotions back in those movies.
it was. I think it was just starting to happen then with actors like that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, before we move on to Jaws 2, any final thoughts about the original?
There was something I noticed just a couple of years ago in one of the rewatches that just completely blew my mind, and now I can't not see it. What happens to the chair? When we're on the Orca, Quint is in a chair that is bolted to the floor with a footboard that he puts his feet on, a thing. And then after
And then it's gone.
after the transoms or the stern cleats break off, the
Yeah.
chair is gone, and it was too big to fit through the door, and they would have had to have unbolted it. Where the hell
Oh
did
my
the chair go?
gosh.
This is
Whoa.
something. Yeah,
I always just kind of assumed that, when all of the barrels, I just assumed that at some point he, the shark pulled it off or something. But
I have no. Yeah, it's just one of those things. It's like one time I was watching, and I'm like, wait, where did the chair go?
Okay, so that is so. I never noticed this. That's compelling enough that I just Googled it, and the only thing that comes up is a post in the Jaws Reddit from 3 years ago that says, "Does anyone know what happened to Quint's fishing chair? It just kind of vanished." And the only assumption is, I guess the shark ate it. Which,
well, I mean, I get for the movie, it probably works better with all them running around without having to go around the chair.
right? Sure, of course.
Yeah, but there's no. Yeah, but it's
no
just
explanation.
Yeah, and there's scenes where we're filming down where you can see the metal plate still there where it was bolted down. But it was just
interesting.
Oh,
yeah,
man,
Clint just got mad, ripped it up, threw it over the edge.
Now I'm totally looking at it from a different, like a whole new perspective, and I don't know, maybe it's overrated now. I don't know.
but it was that one continuity problem.
Well, for years,
exactly.
It took me years of watching it to notice that.
Shut it down. This live stream is over.
I think Steven's like, if you care about the chair, then I've lost you.
Yeah.
But now we're gonna have to go back and pull a Raiders of the Lost Ark and add the chair back. CGI the chair back into
digitally add it in. We'll change the.
No,
whole
I'd
thing.
be afraid Steven would take out all the guns like he did in ET and.
Give them walkie-talkies.
Yeah, shooting walkie-talkies at the shark.
Instead of a harpoon, they're like filming them with this camera or something.
He's so brutal in Jaws that it's a Steven that we never see again. And it can be argued that he makes better movies and goes on to do some really amazing things, but in the first 20 minutes, he kills a dog, he kills a kid, he kills a good-looking girl, and it's brutal. Those, we don't see the dog die, but the kid that is a Steven would never do that now. And and also though, I also think though back in the late 70s and when he was first starting to make movies, and even into the 80s, he was making movies where I could relate to the characters. They seemed and talked and looked like people I knew, like in the cul-de-sacs and and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And boy, at some point, I think it was after Color Purple, once he did Color Purple and moved on, he has not done that since then for me. His movies are great, but I can't relate to them on the level that I could back in the 70s and 80s.
I think though that to an extent, that's a Hollywood thing, in that if you watch movies from the 70s, I mean, a lot of the characters just kind of look like us. They're just regular looking people. And then this movie starification of the 80s happened.
Yeah.
Where you stopped seeing people that looked like Robert Shaw or Roy Scheider, or it just things change. Well, for blockbusters, not for everything, but for blockbuster movies, that you weren't going to see average looking people.
Well, and because you didn't get, when you went to watch Jaws, you said, I'm going to go watch this shark movie or this horror movie. Later on, people started going, I'm going to go watch a Roy Scheider movie, or I'm going to watch a Clint Eastwood movie.
Yeah.
It was more who was in it than what it was,
Nobody's quoting the shark.
Right.
like everybody can quote Jaws, even people who haven't seen it can quote Jaws, but nobody's quoting the shark.
So Jaws was released in 1975 and made a huge impact on the world. It took 3 years for the sequel to be released, which really is kind of a standard issue time for sequels, although sequels were not as much a given back then as they are now. Right. It was directed by Janos Swark, and I had to pull up the actual Wikipedia page here.
He did Supergirl, I remember.
Yes, Somewhere in Time, Supergirl, and Santa Claus the movie. as well as it's worth taking a look at this Wikipedia page because there's just tons of TV movies, lots of feature films, many episodes of television shows, Smallville, CSI Miami, Ally McBeal, Boston Legal, Heroes. Like, this is a prolific director that directed Jaws 2.
Yeah,
and
he wasn't the first choice. I mean, he was actually he wasn't even
Steven
the first
Spielberg was the first choice, but he said
Right.
he would not do it unless he could make a movie about the sinking of the USS Indianapolis.
Yeah, but he wasn't also like John D. Hancock was originally directed the movie, and then
Well, that can't be a real name.
it is.
Is that Alan Smithy Jr.?
and then there were some issues, and so they replaced him. And that's a reading about the making of Jaws 2 is cool too. I think it's actually maybe more interesting than the movie itself, but it went through a lot, and because they had not done this kind of thing before. I mean, yeah, they made sequels before, but this was a big deal, and and they couldn't get everybody on board, and so it did take a little while.
And they had a leading man who was not happy.
Yeah,
Yes.
Roy Scheider wanted nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, really nobody wanted anything to do with it. But the only ones that could escape were Robert Shaw and Richard Dreyfuss.
Yeah, because Richard Dreyfuss's character was supposed to die in the first one.
He dies
in the book. He was supposed to die in the first movie.
Have you read the book?
Yes.
Years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been a long time for me, but I have read it.
I just reread it maybe a year ago, and
oh, cool.
Yeah,
I read it in like high school.
But he
quite a few differences.
Yeah, Hooper was supposed to die in the first movie, but then they got that great shot of the shark attacking the empty cage, and they wanted to use it, but there's nobody in the cage, so they were like, "We'll just let Hooper live." But so he wasn't, unlike Scheider, he wasn't contractually obligated.
Right.
So he could tell them no. Scheider did not have that option. All that said, though, as unhappy as he reportedly was, and I've heard him in interviews say that he was not happy.
Yeah.
It doesn't come through in his acting.
No, I will say that for the movie. His performance is, to me, the most compelling thing about the movie.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed Jaws 2. It's almost similar to me to the way I look at, and I'm not comparing quality, I'm comparing tone. Almost similar to the way I look at Alien and Aliens, in that Jaws is this slow burn horror masterpiece. Jaws 2 is definitely more action popcorn oriented. It moves along much faster. There are many more things happening. It really has sequelitis of like that one, but more. And it's
you see the shark a lot more.
Yeah.
It feels more like a slasher movie, especially with all the kids and all the teenagers that I don't. See, we mentioned earlier about we cared about the three guys in the first one. See, if I didn't care a squat about any of these kids.
No, this throws all of that out the window.
I couldn't even really tell them apart. I think there were too many kids.
Yeah. Like even the one that was Brody's son in the movie, they do nothing to make me care about him.
Yeah, when I was watching it the other day, I was like, when Eddie gets killed, I was like, I thought that was Michael. I was like, oh my God, Michael's getting killed. And I'm like, no, it's not. And then she says Eddie, and I was like, oh. And I was like, okay, I'm totally confused now.
Yeah, I always had a hard time figuring out because I'm like, okay, the kids, his kids are older, but I'm like, which ones are they? I'm like, I couldn't, I had a hard time keeping them straight in the film. And
yeah, because it has to be a few, at least, well, I mean, I guess 3 years, maybe that was how long it was between time in the movie universe, but
and I mean, apparently the mayor got reelected. Hamilton showed up. I'm like really? But
I mean, well, let's not get into that. Into reelecting utter dipshits. We're not going to talk about that on the show.
Never happened.
Yeah.
No, that's totally like that's crazy Hollywood stuff. That would never happen.
And
Oh,
and
interesting. Mark Hartness has a nice little bit of trivia here. Jaws 2, the most criminal thing was cutting the scene where Mayor Vaughn is the only person not to vote to fire Brody. He's the only one who learned anything from the first movie.
Yeah, but he's not strong. Like, yeah, even though that one scene is missing, he's still not strong. I think that's the other thing that, like, it's almost like the second movie resets everybody, because at the end of Jaws, while they're swimming back to shore, Brody says to Hooper, I used to be afraid of the water.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
used to be afraid of the water. And then we get to Jaws 2 and he's afraid of the water again. Like, he's completely reset. And I didn't care for that. So
look, I enjoy Jaws 2.
There are some fun moments in there.
It's Jason's a shark.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
And I'm fine with that. And before Jason was a thing, it has, Bobby, you already mentioned it. My favorite scene in all of Jaws, when it grabs the helicopter. It's preposterous, but I love it because you just don't see it coming. You're like, well, that shark is not going to pull this helicopter out of the sky. That is ridiculous. And then it does it, and it's great, and I love it. And then at the end, when he throws the cable, tricks it into biting the cable, which is
and even before that, when we're behind Brody and he's in the raft with it, and the shark is coming at him, that is an incredible scene. Very scary looking, of that shark just barreling down on him.
It's got some great shots, and they were able to use the robotic shark, however that, and I've never even seen a making of Jaws 2, but clearly they learned from the first movie and
not as much as you would think. They still had had shark problems.
Yeah, they did.
And honestly, I think it's less scary that you see more of the shark. Because
I
again,
agree.
like you compared him to Jason, which I totally agree with. I have never found Jason scary ever. Just like, the shark. But the fact that, you see so very little of it in the first movie, to me, that was what was really scary, what you couldn't see.
Well, it's a Hitchcock thing.
Yeah.
It's the nothing we can put on screen is as scary as what the mind is going to come up with. And when you think there's something there and there's not, like, it messes with your mind. The first movie, this one is just straight up giant shark, and it's just it's fun. It's a fun movie.
Yeah, and I think your comparison to Alien earlier is good, because the first Alien is that way.
Yeah,
we don't see them. We don't see it as much, but with Jaws, because it is in a real life setting and sharks are real, when you're in the water, you can't help but wonder what's under here.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I grew up in Michigan, and I was still afraid, that there could be a shark in the pool or in Lake Michigan or something.
I grew up in Massachusetts, and I was still pretty far away from the coast. So, but I've never been to Martha's Vineyard, which is a destination that I want to go to at some point. Especially, man, this month they are just all over Jaws 50.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
And I would love to participate in some of that. But I have a friend of mine who goes there every 4th of July, and I'm like, if you don't get a picture of the replica orca that's there, I'm going to disown you. But to the director's credit of Jaws 2, Schwartz, I think his name is
Jeannot Schwartz,
right? He did say in an interview, he said, look, Steven had already revealed the shark in the first movie, so it didn't make sense for me to hide the shark. We all knew what the shark looked like. So he said, so I just went from there. I was determined not to repeat what Steven had done, but to just, make the shark. And there are some really cool, there's that one shot where the camera seems to be on, like, where the fin is, the back fin, and you're sort of seeing from the shark's point of view as if you're riding the shark. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like, there's some really kind of innovative stuff there. But I think, like I said about the first one, what makes the first one is the characters. And the second one, I just didn't feel like the characters, especially the kids, which were the ones in danger through most of it, really worked for me.
Yeah, you could have ate them. I'd have been happy.
How brilliant.
We were so close to that stupid rock pile. They could have easily jumped to that pile. And
I wouldn't, Rebecca, I wouldn't go in the water at all. I wouldn't jump. Like, I know it's probably like 5 strokes away, but I'm like, that's.
Oh, it wasn't even that. I mean, it looked like they could literally hop from the boat onto those rocks.
So
now Yeah. Now, and the second one, it's not something I noticed the first time either, but the filming location was different. This was filmed in Florida.
Yeah.
So Amity Island,
I never
it's still
noticed
Amity
that.
Island, but it was
Well,
filmed in Florida.
They filmed a lot of shots in Martha's Vineyard, but most of the filming on water and everything like that.
Yeah,
was done
with
in
the actor, where all the kids and stuff, all that's in Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And because Martha's Vineyard just didn't want them back. They didn't want them there for the first one. I mean, there's a lot of famous
really?
stories. Oh yeah, there's a lot of stories about like the locals would come out and like try to disrupt filming and make
Wow.
noises and whatever.
Yeah.
Wow.
So they started kind of how the studio got around. They started hiring these people to do stuff. But when it came time for the second one, Martha's Vineyard was like, no.
Yeah, because the first movie they outstayed their welcome. They were only supposed to be there for like a month or two, and they ended up there for like a year and a half.
That makes sense.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thoroughly enjoy Jaws 2. When I watch Jaws, it is one of those sequels where I go right into the second one. If I watch Jaws, I watch Jaws 2. I just really enjoy it.
Yeah, I think if Scheider wasn't there, it might be different.
For sure.
I think Scheider is the draw.
If it was missing that connective tissue, then it would not be the same at all.
Right. And we don't, we didn't mention her in the first one, but Lorraine Gary is solid in both.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
So I gotta give her props. It's nice that she's in this, and I know she returns in the fourth one as well. But but it's nice to see her again. She's great.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Jaws 2, if you haven't watched it for whatever reason, well, we all know the reason, because it's a sequel that doesn't have the best reputation, but it's a fun watch. Put aside your high opinion of Jaws, because nothing, like very few films, are going to measure up to Jaws, and just go in looking for a fun killer shark movie. And if you go in with that, I think you're going to have a good time with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I may be in a minority here. I feel the same way about Jaws 3.
Yes.
The shark.
I don't hate Jaws 3, but it's not one I need to revisit often.
It's ridiculous, and it's so much fun. And again, I don't care at all about any of the characters. Like maybe
I care about Dennis Quaid and
Fitzhume. What's his name? The Simon McCorkindale character.
Oh yeah.
Whatever his name.
I forget his name. Yeah.
I really liked him.
Come on.
Him and his partner, his hetero life mate guy. I liked those two guys a lot. But yeah, everybody else I was like, yeah. But it is so much fun. I every time I watch it, I just have the best time.
I wish there was a cleaner version of it.
Yeah, they all look bad
because it was filmed for 3D,
right?
And so even when it like plays on like cable now, and it's so grainy.
Well, even the Blu-ray,
even the Blu-ray is not like, you would have thought they would have cleaned it up for that, and they
didn't care.
They were like, no, we're not.
Nobody
cares enough about Jaws 3D.
Like the redheaded stepchild.
Yeah, and the 3D at the time too was not. It's not what we think of as 3D today.
Right.
No.
When the shark is swimming toward camera, it doesn't move because they didn't have the technology to film it 3D and have it like it's fins.
Right. It's just like floating.
Yeah. Really slowly.
Yeah.
And so then they cut to these shots of the guys inside the thing, and they're all in slow motion going.
Well, and also the shark.
Like, you have plenty of time to get out of that room.
Yeah.
The shark is comedically terrible looking.
Yes.
In this, well, except for when they've lifted footage from like
shark is better looking
than
that one.
But like when it's the robot shark, the tail is like, like it's not organic at all. It's just, but it's a fun movie. Like I said, I love Dennis Quaid, Bess Armstrong, like are just really fun together. SeaWorld, like it's a fun environment, especially the completely ridiculous underwater city that they you
But
know,
who
have
wouldn't want to go? Like, if that was really there, I would
Right.
go. That would be amazing.
right.
And if Louis Gossett Jr. was running it with his like bizarre, like I guess it's supposed to be like a Cajun accent.
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah,
what he's doing.
he says here a lot.
Yeah, look at
Yeah.
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 It's very strange.
Well, he
Um,
can't quite speak properly with all that scenery stuck in his mouth.
Yeah, he is chewing a lot of scenery,
Yeah.
but again, he's amazing.
Yeah. I did think it was an interesting story choice that we kept it in the Brody family.
Yeah, for
That
those who
Dennis-
don't know, it's Brody's. Well, it's his son. Dennis Quaid is playing his oldest
Michael.
son,
Michael,
and then the
then-
younger son comes to visit
Sean, yeah.
Sean.
later in the movie. And it's fun.
Yeah.
It's a-
Yeah,
it's a-
and
Yeah,
and we
it's
also
bad.
get. I think it might have been her first movie, but Leah Thompson as
Yeah, Leah Thompson.
Yes.
Sean, a love interest for Sean, I guess.
Yes.
And I think you mentioned Bess. I like Bess Armstrong. She was good in this.
She's great.
It's got the famous water skiing scene with the like what have any of you ever actually seen like the water skiing pyramid act? I've never actually
I
seen
don't-
that like in
I don't think
person.
they were doing that when I went to SeaWorld because it was I was older.
Well, I mean at all. Like 'cause
no, I don't
mean
think I've
that's
ever. Only in
No.
movies. Only.
Yeah,
in
Yeah,
movies.
it's
I've
been in
never
tons of
seen that in
movies.
real life.
Only in movies in
Yeah.
the Go-Go's video.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never seen it in real life. Yeah.
So I don't know. There's not much more to get into.
Well, let me ask you
Jaws
this: what do you
3D.
guys think if they hadn't have, if the studio hadn't have said it's got to be 3D, and they had made the movie without the 3D, the sacrifices for the 3D, do you think Jaws 3 would have been a better movie?
Oh, for sure. Because
With
that's
different
one of the
effects
biggest
and-
thing. Okay, so it would be better
Visually,
to,
maybe. Visually, maybe.
right,
Yeah.
right. It would be better to look at, and there are moments that were clearly shot just for like the 3D.
Yeah.
Right.
And those would be different. Like overall, like no, it wouldn't be elevated really, but it would be a more enjoyable viewing experience because it wouldn't have those distractions in it that take you out of the movie. It wouldn't have the shot of the underwater city with that fake ass mechanical thing just floating by.
The eel
like-
and that eel.
Oh no! But
I remember
Yeah,
the
the
eel.
shot at
eel.
The
yeah.
eel and
Oh, the shot at the end though, where they blow the shark up and you see the jaws.
bones.
Bristle.
The
bones.
Yeah.
no, they're the jaws that come
Yeah.
at you, and it's
Yeah.
like, oh,
The
I see
jawbone,
what you
yeah.
did there.
Yeah, but you know what? Now that we're, that's also kind of charming.
It
Like,
is. It is.
dumb.
I love. It's ridiculous, but again, that's one of the reasons I love it so much. Is because it's
So
like had it been more like. I think it's not that it wasn't in earnest, but had it been, I think honestly, had it not been in 3D and had it been, they maybe tried to do it a better job, it wouldn't have been as much fun.
yeah, I
honestly.
think you're right. I think a lot of the charm comes from the corny 3D stuff.
Yeah,
And I guess
So-
if I
and the
stop
over
looking
the
at it,
top acting.
yeah,
Yeah,
I guess
yeah,
if
well,
I
yeah.
stop looking at it through a modern lens too,
Oh, of
in
course.
'83, that was the year of the 3D gimmick too. That was,
Oh yeah,
There were
I mean,
a
yeah,
lot
my
of movies
11-year-old
that were-
self seeing that, and
yeah.
the only other movie I'd ever seen in 3D was The Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Hmm.
Which I would argue, as someone growing up in Michigan, was a lot scarier to me because even though I was like, yeah, Jaws probably isn't in the lake, but the creature could be. So
And the
that's
creature can
probably
walk.
legit. And he can walk out of on the land. So that's even creepy. That's even scarier.
Which is a big plot point in Jaws 4.
When the shark walks onto the land. And,
No, when
God,
you're trying to get
well-
away from a shark that's chasing you, don't go to another ocean.
right.
Oh,
Um,
when he can swim from Massachusetts to the Bahamas
Yeah.
in like 2 days. Yeah.
So real quick, I realized I kind of didn't establish some of the impact of this movie. So I grew up traveling to Wilmington, North Carolina, on the coast, right there on the coast, very frequently. All of my family aside from me and my parents and my sister, were in Wilmington. So we were there every other weekend, every summer, all the time, going in the ocean. So like dealing with the idea of sharks was a constant in my life and my parents as well. Like this was one of the movies that Jaws was one of the movies that was a big point, because they did go to movies and stuff. They actually took me as an infant to see Star Wars. I don't remember it, but they were that asshole couple who brought their baby to the theater. Although I was a good baby. But that was like, I've talked to my mom about when Jaws came out and how much it messed everybody, like, because they both grew up in coastal towns, how much it messed everybody up. Like that it really did have an impact on just the lives of people who lived in coastal towns like that. So there was a very sort of personal impact for me. And, I'm very young, going in the water, thinking about sharks all the time.
Yeah, pretty big impact on the shark population as well.
Right.
Yeah. That could be a whole nother podcast talking about that, and I know that, in the years since, I think Steven Spielberg and Peter Benchley have both kind of expressed a bit of regret over how demonized great white sharks have become, because although they have killed people, they are not the,
they are literally
not
demons.
mindless. They're not Freddy Krueger. They're not Jason. They're just animals. They just eat and swim.
But it's not like they made a movie called Panda and people started going out and killing pandas. Like these are murder machines.
Mm-hmm.
But to the point where, they, almost wiped them out. And, we still don't even know that much about great white sharks, even, 50 years later. Although it would also be interesting to see how many people became like marine biologists and studied great white sharks.
Yeah.
Probably the same people that, saw Raiders of the Lost Ark and became archaeologists.
Yeah.
I think more we do know, thanks to, ichthyology, isn't that study of fish? I believe
so.
I just wanted to throw that word out there. Whatever more we do know is probably thanks to Jaws in large part.
I think, if it's not for the Jaws franchise, I doubt we have Shark Week.
Oh,
good point. Yeah,
I would agree with that.
We certainly wouldn't have Sharknado.
Well, and
not worth it.
If you look at, there's probably been more sharks in movies have probably killed more people than sharks in real life, because apparently sharks.
Oh, absolutely.
Sharks are they're not overly aggressive.
We'll come back around to that at the end of the episode. Just real quick, we're not going to spend a lot of time on it because we've got more to cover. Jaws: The Revenge, 1987. We didn't mention Jaws 3D, directed by Joe Alves. Jaws: The Revenge, 1987, directed by Joseph Sargent. Brings back. No, I lost my page. I've got like 15 tabs open here. Brings back Lorraine Gary.
Yep.
But also brings us Mario Van Peebles and Michael Caine.
Yes.
Michael Caine.
One of the more famous Hollywood quotes, Michael Caine. I haven't seen the movie. I hear it's a piece of shit, but the house it paid for is lovely.
Yes, he bought his mother a house with the money that he made, and he missed the he won an Oscar that year, and he missed being at the ceremony because he was filming Jaws: The Revenge.
Oh, fair point. Mark Harkness points out, my wife loves sharks. She wants people to know it's the dolphins you have to watch out for. That is true.
Because they feel sharks.
Mess you up.
Dolphins have sexually assaulted many more people than sharks have killed. I don't know if that's actually true, but that does happen.
Actually, it is. It is. If you get around them during their mating season, they will
get up
mess
in
you
there.
Up. Yeah, they will get up in there. Yeah.
Well, we're waiting for that horror movie to come out.
How is that not happened?
I feel like it already has, but
Cocaine
I feel like one of the sharks. I mean, meth dolphins. I
Yeah.
mean, come on, it's got to.
At the very least, there's an Amazon published book about it.
Oh yeah.
At the very least.
All right,
A
so
romance
Jaws the
with a dolphin.
Revenge, just really bad. I can't. I do rewatch it from time to time, but it is not a good movie. I don't well, if you haven't seen it, you should watch it. But it's just
Yeah. So I
So-
watched all 4 this week in preparation for this podcast. I'll just, take one for the team and say that. And I remember going to see this in the theater and being pretty disappointed. I did notice, and I'm sorry, I can't remember her name, but the actress that played Alex Kintner's mother in the first movie
She's in it too,
she's in this after the son dies.
And the lady from the first 2, she owns the restaurant or a hotel.
Yeah, she's on the
yeah.
Yeah, they're all there at the funeral. Yeah.
But the concept is that a shark that is somehow related to the original shark is hunting the Brodies.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And Ellen Brody has a psychic link to this shark.
Yes.
This franchise has 2 marketing, like really amazing marketing things, is that the taglines became almost more famous in the movies, because it's Jaws 2. The tagline was just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water, which is famous. Like that was that like a lot of taglines have aped that. And then of course Jaws 4, this time it's
personal.
Yeah. And, and we do get in Jaws 2, I noticed watching it this time, there is some hints that it's personal. Like Brody kind of thinks, like
it's drawn to it was drawn to the death of the bigger shark.
Well, yeah, the first time. Well, yeah, it's not really clear as to exactly how that played out, and I don't know if that was in the original draft of the script and it was thrown out or whatever. But it starts off with the shark kind of checking out the orca, the remains of the orca on the bottom of the sea, and then it goes straight over to Amity, like to be like, okay. I'm going to hunt these people down or something. And I think Brody at one point almost feels like the shark is making him look bad or mocking him, or because at one point he says, you don't think the sharks like can have personalities or anything like that, do you? And we never get a follow-up on it, but it's kind of hinted at. Whereas in my understanding is, because I still haven't seen 4, my understanding is 4, they take that concept to ridiculous level.
Real quick. And Tasia C is asking, wasn't there a voodoo aspect to Jaws the Revenge? Let me say this.
They try to make you think that there is.
Right. Well, so there was a voodoo aspect that got cut out of the movie. I highly recommend, if you don't watch Jaws the Revenge, or if you do, at least check out the How Did This Get Made about Jaws the Revenge. It is excellent.
Yes, and going back to the way that they kind of retcon Chief Brody's character. So in the 4th movie, he has passed on of a heart attack, and Ellen Brody is convinced that no, he didn't die of a heart attack. He died of fear of the shark.
Yes,
the fear of the shark is what actually killed him. And so, that she has some psychic link that she knows the shark knows where she is, and she knows where the shark is. It is just so bizarre. And
the shark that he killed twice.
Right. I don't know if this is like the grandson or or a jilted wife. I don't know, but it's crazy.
And so the shark sets a trap for Brody's youngest son, who is a cop, and so sets a trap for him and kills him.
How he knew he was going to be on that boat? Because he sets up a trap in the water, like a dam or something, and he has to go into in a boat to
it's at night. It's in the dark.
At night, and no one can hear him screaming because there's a child's Christmas choir singing.
It is a Christmas movie.
It is Christmas.
Yes, this is a Christmas movie.
Yeah,
and it completely disregards Jaws 3.
Yes,
which is infuriating.
I think
how dare they?
The only thing that kind of carries over is that Michael, who is not Dennis Quaid this time, but somebody else, is still like a scientist
Right.
studying sharks, but he's just not at SeaWorld anymore. He's in the Bahamas.
So Jaws 4 is what it is. I do believe
you guys haven't done a great job to convince me that I need to check this out.
Michael Caine fighting a
We're
shark.
not here to convince you to see it. I mean,
Yeah, Michael Caine fights a shark.
Yes, Mike and Mario Van Peebles has the weirdest Jamaican accent that I've ever heard. Yeah, accents in this movie are not. It's not a strong suit in this film.
Yeah. And you talked about quoting.
Seems to be playing a drug smuggling pilot.
Yep.
Yes.
And you talked about earlier, nobody quotes the shark. The shark roars in this movie.
Yes, it does.
That's right.
Yeah.
It does roar. I forgot about that.
Yeah. Jaws 4 shark roar.
Mike is like add to cart, add.
Yeah. You guys like, because you mentioned like when you guys
one
were
night
talking about
soon, have like 2 or 3 drinks and sit down and watch it. That's
you guys were talking about 3, and you guys kept mentioning how fun it is. Yeah, it's not great, but it's fun. I'm not hearing that with 4.
No,
it's not.
No,
it's ridiculous, but not in a fun way. It's bad. It's so bad. It's bad.
It's real not good.
Whereas 3 is so bad it's good. This one is just so bad it's bad.
So we got to move on now to something much, much better than Jaws 4 or Jaws the Revenge. And that is Jaws the Ride. So who here actually experienced Jaws the Ride? Oh, Mike Gordon, I'm so sorry.
I lived in Orlando for a long time, and a friend of mine, my roommate actually worked in Orlando, and he worked on the rides, and he was telling me how Jaws kept breaking. Like, he would come home all the time because that ride would break down constantly. I mean, it really was like that first movie and that first shark. This ride wasn't open a lot. So I think anybody who did get to see or did it get to experience this ride, it should be blessed, because I don't I lived there for 3 years, and
when it first opened, it definitely had a lot of issues with it. As once they were able to kind of they got a different company to go in and work on it, and they had much better luck with it. Until it closed. But,
I feel like I have seen it, but I have been on it. But to be honest with you, I have no recollection of it, so I can't really honestly say that I experienced it.
The ride was fun. I enjoyed the ride. The ride was fun. It was also cool, they would build stuff around the rides.
Yeah,
so there's
like and the town.
Right, like there's
you go into the shack, you go into that shack.
Yeah, and Quint's places there. There's places like the snack bars right out in front of Quint's. I do, as an aside to the ride, just a real quick one. They used to film that show Sequest in Orlando, which Roy Scheider was on. And there is an episode where Roy Scheider is off the boat. He's in town on R&R, and he's sitting in front of Quint's place.
Oh, that's great.
Sipping coffee.
That's cool.
Oh,
best part of that episode was him.
I
know where he's at. Yeah.
Well, even though it's no longer at Universal Florida, you can still see a bit of it in Hollywood, and I'm part of the tram ride, which is still pretty cool. It's just a small part, but the entire ride is still at Universal Studios in Japan.
Yeah.
And wasn't there a movie where it's featured in a movie, that the ride? I forget what the movie is now.
Mallrats.
It's Mallrats.
Because he's going to propose to her when Jaws pops out of the water.
Okay.
That's the most romantic fucking thing I've ever heard.
I think that's pretty romantic. I mean, hey,
that's amazing.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably been referenced in other pop culture. I mean, it's I would say it's one of the it's people know that this ride is a thing or was a thing.
Oh, Escape from LA, when he's underwater and he's in the submarine.
It's there. That's right.
And the shark pops up.
Okay, that could be what it is then. Yes,
that's right. Good call.
I knew I had seen it
Because at first you
somewhere.
think it's like a real shark that's in the
Yeah.
water, but no, it's the mechanical shark from the ride, which I laughed. I laughed for a good probably 5 minutes when I first saw that.
So, as you mentioned, originally, Jaws was a part of the Hollywood studio tour in Universal in Hollywood, and then they developed an entire ride based around Jaws for Orlando Universal Studios. It opened on June 7th, 1990, and for the first couple of years that it was open, it was, as Mike said, was just constantly having issues, had to be evacuated several times a day.
So right
because of
on
problems
brand.
with the ride. Yeah, absolutely.
That's exactly when I lived
Shark
down
is
there.
not working.
I
And
lived in
then
Orlando
as-
from 90 to 93, so that was right in that time. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So you were there
as-
at not a great time.
As Rebecca mentioned, they brought in a new company to redo the ride, and it functioned mostly fine for the next few years, which I don't remember exactly when I visited. I seem to remember. Okay, so it would have probably been 91 when I went with my family. And I feel like I remember it being broken down, but we eventually got to ride it because I rode it when I was young and I rode it again when I was older because it didn't shut down until 2012.
Yeah.
So I did get to experience it, and I absolutely loved it. I thought it was fantastic. And this next shot, this actually like made me really sad because I love this
Yeah.
setup so much. You can see all the different spots where the shark attacks from this overhead view.
Yeah. I know exactly where that's at now too.
Yeah, I know, right?
Like in Harry Potter taking over.
It's a shame that what replaced it.
Yeah.
What replaced it? I'm not sure. I don't
Harry
know.
Potter.
Diagon Alley is sitting
Yeah.
on that spot now. There are I think there are a few spots left.
So by the water, there is still even so for the 50th, they have put up a few more things, but they still do have, and this is year round, near the pier, they still have the shark hanging.
Right.
And then like a little sign, beach closed,
Yeah,
Yeah.
you would always
but
get your photo with the shark, and
yeah, but now they've put up for the 50th this year, which I got to see, they put up a replica of the boat that you got to ride on the ride.
Oh, okay.
They put up a little bit so you could get a photo op in that, and there's a guy dressed as Quint walking around, and
Oh,
they've
that's
got
cool.
some of the barrels and stuff, and yeah, it's pretty cool.
Nice. Yeah, that's when I was doing my research for this and this image popped up, my heart just kind of sank a little bit because it was just such a special thing.
Very glad I got to experience that full ride.
Yeah.
Before they closed it. And now I need to go to Japan so I can ride it there.
Yeah, I know, right?
I have done the one in Hollywood. The one in Hollywood is pretty fun. I mean, it's a much smaller bit of a bigger tour,
Right.
but he still pops right up and comes right up against your tram, which is pretty neat.
And I will say this shot that we're looking at, for anybody listening, the video version of this is available on the Needless Things YouTube channel in perpetuity. But the shot we're looking at right now, I will say that shark looks like ass.
And it's from Jaws 2.
Yeah, I know. It's the cable. It's biting the cable.
I remember there'd be like smoke and like like fire and stuff. It was amazing.
Yeah, and look how close it is to that boat.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine being that little.
You could actually feel the heat. Yeah, you could actually feel the
steam
heat.
at you. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was a special experience, and it's wild to think that all of the movies had all already come out by the time this ride opened.
Yeah,
that's just a weird time frame to think.
It was also interesting too. I mean depending on who was giving the tour, it could impact your experience.
Right, it's like the
yeah.
Jungle Cruise.
Yeah, they're shooting at the shark. They're interacting with as part of the ride, and I always thought that was really cool, and especially if you rode it with like someone who was really into it.
It was a great experience.
They have the you start the little trip off with they've got a grenade launcher, and they say, but we won't need it because this was 1974. There have been no sharks in these waters, since then. They built up a nice little story about it too.
Mhm.
That like it was a real thing that happened, but then they made a big Hollywood movie about it. Like it was really fun. It was a fun immersive experience.
Mhm.
All right, well now we have got to talk about the merchandise. This is Needless Things. We always talk about toys when we can. And I'm going to kick things off with a couple of items I've actually got sitting right here with me. If I can remember what, yeah, there we go. So I think probably the biggest beneficiary of the success of JAWS as far as merchandising goes is just straight up big ass rubber sharks, not licensed. Like you go anywhere, especially any beachfront, like janky souvenir shop, is just loaded with rubber sharks that people are buying. Yeah, of course, because sharks are cool, and now because of Shark Week. But for years, I mean, like I said, it's not licensed, but guess what? This is a JAWS toy.
Oh, yeah. I do have my little stuffed JAWS, and he is officially.
Well, hang on.
I'll
I'll put you up on the big screen.
That I got at Universal. He's the little 50th anniversary part of the merch that they did, and his like little red lipstick, and
I have one.
he looks very
one.
happy though.
I have one. I don't have it handy, but I have one that's just like that, except it's inside its mouth is pink, and hanging off the side of it, Velcro to it, are the barrels, which are also
that's great. I love that.
soft and squishy. I can see it from here, but it's way over there.
So I've got a few more things just sitting right here before we get to some slides of stuff that none of us have. Probably my prized possessions are the Funko reaction figures that came out in 2015.
Very cool.
And it's the only Brody you're gonna get.
Wow.
There's a Funko. There's a Funko Brody.
Well, there's a pop. I don't count
Oh
that
yeah.
as a
Okay.
action figure.
Okay.
That's a whole different thing. And then they did, of course, the shark, which I gotta say, I think this is my favorite version of the shark.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, they've got the shark. They've got a shark with Quint in his mouth.
Are you talking about this one right here?
Yes. Yes.
So
That's
if you'll notice,
cool too.
the blood spatter is
The
on the
blood
shark
spatter.
and on the packaging window.
It's obviously a convention exclusive.
There is a
2015
San Diego
Comic-Con exclusive.
Yep.
And then more recently, NECA has released, and we'll take a look at the original in a minute, but NECA has released, this is an updated version of the old JAWS game, complete with the spring-loaded jaw, but much more realistic looking.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah,
than
that
the
looks a
original.
lot better. I had one of the original games at one point, and that looks way better than the shark.
Oh, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
We'll look at it in a minute. And then NECA is continuing with a line of figures. I've got the Hooper is opened up. The review goes up next
That's a good
week.
likeness.
It's incredible. It's incredible. The review goes up next week here on the channel. And then
sadly, we'll never get a Brody in that.
No, we won't. But Quint, haven't reviewed him yet, but also just absolutely the glare is just killing it. But I mean, this, if you're familiar with NECA's output, you know what they've done with portraits and likenesses and whatever else.
Yeah.
So that's all the stuff I've got sitting here.
Mm-hmm.
And now we can move on.
There's a fun one. I don't have it handy either, but it's the Tiny Terrors with Quint.
I've got a picture of it.
That one's a cool toy.
But before we get to that, here is the original game, which looks hilarious in comparison. But this game came out in 1976 and has been re-released, bootlegged, reproduced. Like, you may have seen this exact same game, but not a licensed JAWS product. But I think everybody our age either had this or knew somebody that had this.
Yep.
And I will say this one functions much better than the NECA version. The NECA version is really more for display, although it does come with, like, it is a fully functional game, but the original actually works a lot better because if you remember trying to fish those things out of it, like it was tense.
Yeah, it was a scarier operation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Well,
So
double
that
entendre.
is the original Jaws game by, oh shoot, I think it's Coleco maybe. I didn't put that in my notes for some reason. And then we've got some 50th anniversary stuff that's coming out. Oh wait, this is Mike Gordon's favorite piece.
This is
That's
I've got it. I've
cool.
actually got it here. This
Oh,
is
wow.
my this is my favorite. You know, as you can tell from the background, I have some tiki mugs back there, and Mondo. This goes a few years ago. Might have been for the 40th actually anniversary. But Mondo came out with nice figures. This is
so
this is
cool.
one that looks it's a variant. There's one that looks a lot more realistic as far as the shark goes. So it's got more realistic colors. But I really like the way that this one sort of has that almost scrimshaw like.
Oh, but the swizzle stick really makes it though.
The swizzle stick is what, because not only it's got the girl, it's got the logo, and it's got a barrel at the bottom.
Oh, nice.
Amazing.
I was trying to think what that thing was called. I couldn't remember.
Mondo really does a great job. It's got the orca on the remains of the orca here on the bottom. It's designed by Thor, who is a great tiki artist that does a lot of mugs. And unfortunately, I don't think Mondo really does cool like mugs like this anymore. But for a while there, they were doing aliens mugs, and they were doing they did a couple of Creature from the Black Lagoon mugs, Universal Monster mugs,
and kind of taken over that business.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, Geeky Tiki does a lot of like cheaper versions. Yes.
Right.
These were a little bit more higher priced, but obviously this is not something that you're actually going to drink out of. Although I guess you could.
What?
You know,
you disappoint me. You better throw a Bloody Mary in that. I know it should be a Mai Tai, but really, Bloody Mary.
Throw one in there, and you could watch Jaws 4.
Yes. What a night that would be. Order up some sushi. Oh, what a celebration.
That is my the jewel of my Jaws collection. I have books and DVDs and comics. There's only one comic there's only one comic book adaptation of a Jaws movie, and it's Jaws 2.
Yep.
Really? Who put it out?
Marvel.
Marvel.
Yeah, it's one of the Marvel. I have it, but I didn't.
Yeah, I have it.
One out. There's also Jaws also actually appears. There's a famous cover of Mad Magazine of Cracked has, I think, Jaws 2 with the girl. Those posters, that poster art is so iconic.
Yeah.
That, I mean, it's just, and the recreations that have been done over the years by, if it's a satire like Mad or anything like that, it's amazing how I understand the actual guy who did the painting for the original. I was reading an interview with him not too long ago. And apparently, I don't know if this has changed, but at least when this was done shortly before he died, the original was lost. He went to claim it. Universal said, we don't know where it is. And somebody's got it. I know somebody, I hope someone's got it. I hope it wasn't destroyed, but somebody's got it somewhere in their man cave or something like that. But I would imagine if that was ever to resurface and get on the market, that would go for a lot of money. That original painting.
Well, that artwork was originally for the paperback before the movie. And then they were like, well, what are we going to use for the movie, for the movie poster? And they're like, well, I'll just use the paperback. And so they got that artwork for like nothing because they were like, we don't care. I'm sure they cared after the movie came out. But
sure. I know the artist did some recreations, so there are some originals of that available, but the actual original artwork that he did for the book and subsequently the movie is
and they've certainly done a lot of prints of different versions of the movie poster and
the
I think Mondo's even done several
yes, absolutely.
And there were a lot of comic books that swiped. My favorite, there's one where it's a Spidey super story where Spidey is swimming in the shark, and it actually, I think because Marvel had the rights to do the Jaws comic, it actually has like Jaws, the word Jaws on the cover.
There's a
Wow.
DC one too,
There's
where Superman's flying by and the
He's
shark
get-
rises up and grabs his cape.
Got his cape, yeah.
Yeah.
It's great.
I think one of the parody images I like the most is Jawa.
Yeah.
Because the shape is similar, it
Yeah.
looks funny. All right, moving on. This is just a little better shot of that NECA JAWS game and all
That's
the
great.
accessories that it comes with. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Oh yeah,
I'm-
not monochromatic with the parts.
Right.
Right.
Actually put a little bit of detail into it, which is nice.
I'm hoping they will do an articulated version, but will probably depend on how this one does. Next up, Rebecca, I think you might have mentioned this before, the Tubbs JAWS Orca, which, if you notice, it includes Brody Quentin Hooper, but also a rubber duck in a shark costume.
Yes, they had that at Universal, and I thought it was very cute until I saw the price tag and said no.
Yeah, that's wild.
It was I think it was. I think it might have been $150.
Oh my gosh.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Well,
Wow.
prices are going to come into play later as well, and it's killing me, but we'll get there.
Yeah.
Also available now, Bobby, I think you mentioned this one, the Toonie Terrors Quint, which is the shark, very animated style that NECA has been doing with all of their horror properties. And Pee-wee's, some other stuff as well.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it's a really nice stylized version of poor old Quint getting chomped. Then the little people, although I have a problem with this one because it's just the humans. You don't actually get a shark toy
Oh,
to go with your little people figure.
That's a
Yeah,
bummer.
this
Well,
one
it is little
misses the
people,
mark.
not little sharks. So.
Yeah, if I was a kid and got this, I'd be so disappointed. Like, because if you're a kid, which granted, these are aimed at adult collectors, but
sure.
if you're a kid and you got this, like, you wouldn't even care about the humans
Right.
other than to feed them to the shark.
Plus, it's a little false advertising. On the box, it looks like a shark is eating Quint.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, you'd open that up and be like, where is this shark? So this one, to be
I
honest,
guess you can use
misses the mark.
the shark from the JAWS game.
Yeah.
Well, that's true. That's very true. This is an inflatable pool toy that, if it didn't say JAWS, could just be a generic ass shark pool toy, but then it wouldn't be $70.
Yeah,
Right.
you could get that at Five Below.
It's not like they're perfectly capturing the likeness of Bruce or anything here. It's an inflatable shark. And then this one, which I actually prefer, this is a massive
Nice.
like raft, like that you
That's
sit
cool.
inside.
While you're wearing your shark pajamas.
Yes, absolutely. And again, branded. Otherwise, this would just be another inflatable shark thing. Next up. Now this is, I am not really a fan of Funko Pops, but I think this one is quite nice. It's the
That is
larger scale pop.
very cool. Yeah,
And-
I don't buy them either, but I actually would consider buying that one.
Right. The deco on this one is very cool. It looks like the reflective water on the surface of the shark. It, like I said, is a larger size in comparison with a Funko Pop. Like it's much larger than just their regular little human figures or whatever. And that one is specifically for the 50th anniversary. Pretty cool.
Because they should have just called him Bruce instead of just Great White Shark.
So,
Or
but
JAWS.
that's something I noticed, because on the older Funko ones from the 40th anniversary, it just says Great White Shark.
Huh.
It's
Because I
odd.
think Bruce was like a nickname.
Well, it
given-
was the nickname for the mechanical
Because-
shark,
yeah.
but it just seems weird.
Or like I
right.
said, just call him JAWS because he's
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Now the one I did like, the Funko did one where it is the shark and the orca, which I have, which is really nice.
Yes. And we've got a couple. Fortunately, we've got more than just the tubs that feature the orca. Like this one right here.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
This is a must-have for me. First of all, this is a Hot Wheels orca. The packaging is just so retro and gorgeous. Like, if it had come out in 1975, this is what it would have looked like.
Yeah.
Includes die cast shark. I love
Right.
that.
Check this out. So this is when you open it up. You're going to need a bigger boat,
Wow.
like a really nice display flap.
Yeah.
And then
That one.
inside, you actually have a
Nice.
little seascape with the shark behind the orca. But the
And Quinn.
orca has the carrot. Well, okay, so there's the die-cast shark. Very nice. I love that the shark is die-cast too, and not just plastic. You actually have
Wow.
well, Brody.
Is it Brody chumming the
Yes,
water?
yes, on the back of the boat.
Nice.
Oh wait, I went too far. So there are many more pictures. This is a Hot Wheels orca that goes up on Mattel Creations, I think on the 30th. But just Google Hot Wheels Jaws, and this will come up. It is a 50th anniversary set, and it's great. It's a must-have for me. It's $32.50, which is a little pricey, but I think with the packaging and everything
Yeah, that's not
Yeah.
terrible.
No,
right.
for the
Yeah.
attention to detail on that, it's not
Yeah.
actually not a
I
bad
mean,
price.
Yeah,
I
I
could
really
see
love
them
it.
charging almost twice that, really.
Yeah. So this is a nice piece. But
I'd
the
still be
next one,
tempted.
the next one is, it's killing me because I think this is the absolute best piece of 50th anniversary merchandise being offered. This is a vinyl toy from Mondo designed by James Groman. If you don't know James Groman, he was behind Mad Balls, My Pet Monster, a lot of the 80s gross out toys, and has continued his career with specialty vinyl toys from all different kinds of licenses. But this is a 16-inch long soft vinyl toy. You can see here it comes with the
Wow.
head
Oh,
from Jaws
wow.
2 and from Jaws. It's
Oh,
got
wow.
the barrels, the cage.
That's amazing.
The
It's got the
guy's,
leg.
the guy's leg.
It's got
Yeah.
the
That Ben
leg,
Gardner's
the
head?
head. Yes.
Oh, wow.
This is
It's amazing.
incredible. You can get a good look at
Nice.
the mouth and the gruesome contents here. It's got if you see the raft, the piece of the raft right here.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a look at the size of it. It is a
Wow.
massive
Oh, okay.
piece.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. 16
Unfortunately,
inches. Yeah.
I don't even want to know how you can tell us how much it is.
you don't want to know how much it is. So
Probably.
the base price is $275, which is what these things cost. This is a limited edition designer vinyl toy. It's huge.
No, that is massive.
The
Yeah.
problem is with tariffs and shipping, it comes up to, and I know this because I put it in my cart and was going to buy until I got the total, $356.
Ooh.
Wow.
So thanks for that, Mayor. Re-elected idiot mayor. Yeah, I want this
Wow.
possibly more than anything else that's coming out this year, but I cannot justify spending that much money on
that
it.
is pretty amazing, though. But
Yeah,
that's
it's
a little
gorgeous.
pricey.
That's a piece of work.
It's a gorgeous, unique piece. Like it is a collection centerpiece.
Yeah. And when it hits the secondary market, the people that do bring it over,
Yep,
you're going to be looking at $500-600.
Absolutely.
Easy. Yeah.
I mean, if you have the means and can justify it, you should order like 4 of these. I'm not even kidding, because the resale, I mean, look, Mike, I'm sure all 3 of you are probably aware of this to some degree. The resale on Mondo stuff, especially their timed editions, I mean, they double easily.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this could potentially be an investment piece as well. And what I'm doing right now is talking myself into buying 2 of them to recoup my
investment.
Yeah, I don't need to pay my mortgage this month. It's fine.
Right.
I'll go ahead and buy a couple.
I'll call up the company and be like, look, we'll just give me a month off. So anyway, this is absolutely beautiful. I think it's available. I believe it's available through July 18th, but go to Mondo. They've got a lot of Jaws stuff right now. They've got a couple of different, they've got the soundtrack, but they also have the soundtrack with some rarities and stuff that weren't used in the film, with a die cut bite mark out of the record.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah, they've got a number of cool things available.
And I think they're re-releasing the mug that I have too, with various other design, like
Ah.
with colors and paint schemes or whatever. So
Making
'cause
a note to go on to Mondo as soon as I get off this
yeah,
podcast.
so because I got that
Or
a number of
not.
years ago, but yeah, really. I mean, what an amazing time to be alive. I mean, look, it
Mhm.
took 50 years, but look at all the merch that we're getting. Like,
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know, for
it
the
is
first
pretty. There's not a ton of movies that, I mean, the 70s were obviously a great time for films, and a lot of those movies that we're still talking about now. But yeah, who would have thought that like a movie about a killer shark we'd be talking about
Mhm.
50 years later with such, reverence. And
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
they said, I agree, it is a perfect movie, and it very easily could have just tanked and been terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, given that, we all know all the issues that went through, making it, but the fact that it turned out as well as it did.
Yeah.
for those
Well, I
people
wanted to
who like,
mention a couple if I could.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh,
Oh well, wait, hang on. Let's put you on the big
Oh.
screen, Bobby Nash.
ooh,
Oh, I'm jealous.
wow.
So this is I have not opened it, but it's
Yeah,
but
that's
gotta
gonna be
put
a
it
time
together.
investment.
yeah. So this is absolutely gorgeous. From the back, you can see all the more details.
Okay, so it comes with Quint Brody and
And Hooper. Yep.
and then
We've
okay.
got barrels. We've got
Wow.
the shark. There's water. The shark. There's
Does the shark launch?
It's
now
What is
that I
that?
don't know.
What is that second picture?
Oh, he's just on like a riser. I think
He's on a
just
riser. Yeah,
No,
he's
Okay.
no,
coming
up at the
actually,
top. It looks like
if
the
you-
shark
but if you look at
splits
this,
in
like-
half and fires the top part of its body.
Yeah. On the back, it's on a pedestal, right? It can come up, so it's above the water.
No, above that.
Oh, there we go.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I see what it's.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's just where you put it. Okay,
right,
yeah, how
right.
put
You
it
can
together,
put
yeah.
the top half of the shark. Okay, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
So there's that one. I mentioned that the Crush It Like Quint contest they had.
Which, by the way, I don't have it out here with me, but NECA has produced little tiny licensed. What is the beer? Naga what?
Narragansett or Narragansett,
Whatever
or
it
something
is.
like that, yeah.
But they're included with the
Mhm.
NECA figures, little tiny beer cans.
And this is a real beer company, and they, for the 50th anniversary, have re-released this.
Oh,
Oh,
nice.
wow.
Real cans with real
Yeah,
beer,
yeah.
with like a nice Jaws packaging, which
Oh,
is
the packaging looks beautiful.
yes.
Wow.
And then
Oh,
the
okay,
other
I'll
one, and I
check that
don't
out.
have my copy handy, but if you've got children, you'll love this especially. There is a little golden book called Jaws, Big Shark Little Boat,
Oh,
which is absolutely adorable.
That's great.
I mean, obviously they're the sharks friendly, and but
Sure,
it's
of
very
course.
cute, but it's
She's just trying to
absolutely
say hi.
adorable. Yeah, and
he
it's
just wants a hug.
yeah, it's inexpensive. It's only like it's under $5. If you're a Jaws fan, you will love it. But it's an official Jaws product, and it's just
Oh,
it's
that's
just
great.
too cute.
Amazing.
Yes. And
Well,
then I think probably the one of the highlights of my Jaws collection, I bought one of those years ago. It's a little strip of the film. where
Oh,
they
yeah,
cut-
yeah.
Cool.
I have one of those, which is pretty cool.
So TBS used to show Jaws a lot.
Mhm.
And I know, being in Atlanta and everything, I've known a few people who worked for Turner, worked for TBS, and one of the persons once confided in me. We were talking about things, and they said that one of the higher ups in the network, programming wise, said that whenever we show Jaws, it just blows the numbers of almost anything else that we ever show on the Superstation. And they said if there was a way that we could figure out to air Jaws 24/7, we would, because it still gets the ratings. And this was probably 10 years ago or so, but it is amazing to me that this franchise hasn't had a movie or anything since Jaws 4. We do have some fun stuff that happens. I love the reference in Back to the Future 2 with
Oh,
Jaws
yeah.
19, with Jaws 19. But that's how crazy it was going to be, right? We thought like we'd get a Jaws movie every couple of years until like in the future there would be Jaws 19. We're like, yeah, that makes sense. But yet we haven't seen Jaws 5. We haven't seen. So my theory is that at some point Steven had the pull to say, don't you
No
ever make
more.
another sequel,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
I will do this. So you have to pay me $2 billion, or there's something going on behind the scenes, some document, some deal that was made.
Yeah.
Because I
has
find
to
it
be the
hard.
case.
I find
Yeah.
it hard to believe in this day and age of sequels and prequels and reboots and everything that Universal has not like said we need to do another one of these.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Because
Or
shark
to try to
movies are
remake
just
it.
shark movies are just as popular now.
exactly.
Oh, yeah.
So
Without
I mean,
the
Look at
Jaws brand.
stuff like the Meg and all
Yeah.
these like killer sharks are have always been popular. But yeah,
I'm not saying I
Mike has
want
a
it to
great
happen, but
No.
I just am
No,
shocked
you're
that it
right,
The
though.
hasn't.
fact that there hasn't
Shocking.
that somebody hasn't tried to like, hey, let's remake this because
Right.
everything's
Yeah.
got remade.
You hear
But
about like
again, I'm
Highlander
sure
being remade like every other week or something with a different creative team, but you never, like me,
Never even a
maybe I'm
whisper
wrong.
of a Jaws
I've
remake.
never heard of anybody
I'm sure
talking
it does
about it.
come down to Steven Spielberg because the rumor is at Universal Studios in Florida the only original ride from when that park opened was E.T.
Mhm.
And they've closed it at every other park. And apparently the only reason that one is still there is because Steven Spielberg has said, if you close this ride, I will never do business with Universal again.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean,
And because he was so upset when they closed Jaws, and they used to have the original Orca at Universal in Hollywood. And one day, and he used to go hang out at it. And one day they was like chopped it up with an axe or
Oh
something.
my gosh.
And
I
he
would've been
came by and it was
devastated.
gone. And they're like, what happened? And he's like, what happened to it? And he's like, oh yeah, we just threw it out. And he was so
Ugh.
upset. So I'm sure he has said, if you ever try to remake this movie or make another one without me, then we're done.
Yeah, I'll never
Yeah.
film anything else for Universal again.
I mean,
Yeah.
he's got that,
And that has enough clout now that that's
Mhm.
Oh yeah,
that's
sure.
a big deal.
I think Amblin is a parent, is tied to Universal. So I do think that they do have, discussions and stuff like that. So that's the only logical thing I can think of, because otherwise I cannot believe that Universal is like, well, the original is so pure that we don't want to
No, there's
we
no
would
way.
see, like,
There's
you
no
know
way
how-
that's the
yeah.
answer to that.
You know how we'll
we
figure
would
it
see
out.
the Jaws prequel series with the little baby shark, and
Yeah.
it grows up. Like the
Right.
last shot would be it like going to Martha's Vineyard. Like it
Right.
would be like the last.
He's
like,
off in the distance and he sees his mother getting killed and he's like, I will have my revenge.
It's like,
Yeah.
there's Ben
Exactly.
Gardner's boat.
Yeah.
yeah,
His
you-
mother
you'll
was
know-
killed by Quint, right?
Yeah, you'll know your theory is sound if after Steven Spielberg passes away,
Oh yeah.
if suddenly there is a Jaws reboot.
I would not be surprised.
Yeah,
I
that
would
wouldn't
not
shock
at
me a
all be
bit.
surprised. And
So-
let's hope that day is a long way coming.
Yes.
We
Yeah.
got to wrap things up, but I want to do a real quick speed round. What is the best Spawn of Jaws movie? What is the best shark movie to follow in the wake, as it were, of Jaws? Or what is your favorite? It doesn't have to be the best. And I'll go ahead and kick it off and say, I think my favorite is Deep Blue Sea.
Oh, you
I
took
lo-
mine.
I love me some LL Cool J. That movie is it's fun every single time. And it delivered, as dodgy as some of the CG is, the scene with Sam Jackson is legit a great cinematic shock.
Yep.
Because if you didn't know it was coming, you never would see it coming. And it holds up. Like as far as just it being a dumb action movie, it's a pretty darn good killer shark movie.
It is.
My favorite shark movie outside of Jaws is The Shallows.
Oh,
I really
yeah.
like The Shallows with is it
Blake
Blake
Lively.
Lively.
Blake Lively? Yeah.
Yes. That is
That
excellent.
movie is tense and suspenseful, and all the fear that you have going into the water that the original Jaws gives you,
Mhm.
like is evident. It's a much lower budget. Obviously, it's not a huge big cast or anything like that, but it's a small movie, but it really made an impact.
Aren't there like a total of 3 people in that movie?
I think so. I think
Yeah.
you're right. Right.
It is excellent though, and when you
It's-
hear the
it's a-
premise, you're like, "There's no way they got a whole movie out of this," and they sure as shit did. It
Mhm.
is great.
Yeah, I think there's even a
Yeah.
sequel. I don't know. I haven't watched.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
think
know
it's a
if-
different person. Like
there
there's Deep Blue
is.
Sea sequels also, but
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
it's one of those we're
Um,
gonna keep using the name.
But that's my favorite.
Well, Dave and Mike took my picks, but I am going to say, and again, it's ridiculous, but I love it. The Meg.
Oh yeah,
It's
yeah. That
so
first
over
one.
the top and
Mhm.
just ridiculous, and something that would never happen in a million years. But at the same time, the Megalodon did actually exist. Whether or not he's still down there, after all these millions of years, who
Mhm.
knows? But it's just so much fun and ridiculous. I've not seen the second one, so I don't know if that's as much fun.
It's
But
not.
It's it goes to
It is
I can
a
imagine.
steep
I can imagine.
decline.
So maybe I'll be like Mike. I'm just going to stick with the first one and just enjoy it and not, acknowledge the other
Mm.
ones.
I will say this: as much fun as the first Meg movie is, the books are infinitely better. I have read the novels. There's like
Okay.
8 of them. There's like 8
Oh,
Gosh,
Meg
wow.
novels.
really?
Yes, the first 3 or 4 are fantastic. I mean, they get a little,
Is it Steve Alton?
Steve Alton. Yes.
Okay.
Wow.
Keep meaning to read those.
Yes, the first 3 or 4 are just excellent. I mean, they're all good.
Let me just tell you, Bobby Nash, award-winning Bobby Nash, the words, the first 3 or 4 Meg books are excellent is not a grouping of words I expected to hear at any point in my life.
No, they are, because the Meg movies are really Jason Statham movies with a shark in it.
Sure.
Fair.
Yes. There's a lot of, I mean, the Meg books are very action packed, but I just like, they're better. The storytelling is better. But the first Meg movie is fun. And since you guys have taken all of the ones I was going to, I recently saw, and it's a good movie. It's not my favorite, but just so I'm not rehashing what you guys said, there was a movie out a couple of years ago called Black Demon with
Yes.
Josh Lucas.
Yes.
That I really enjoyed that one. And it's a giant shark movie, but there's also like it's almost supernatural in some ways, that it's tied to this demon in a shark's body. But it's a shark attacking a oil drilling platform.
Interesting.
And so the oil has seeped out and the shark has just gone mad from, but it's really good. It's of the ones we've mentioned, it's not as good as the 3 that you guys have mentioned before this, but it is a good, tense. Also, kind of the same thing. They don't have a large cast, so it's very even though you're out in the middle of the ocean, it's just very claustrophobic feeling of being trapped on this oil rig. So really good. Josh Lucas is really good in it. He's the only name that I recognized of the cast. But it was really good. It's on one of the streamers. I forget which one I watched it on, but yeah, I would recommend that one. And then the 3 that you guys mentioned have all been enjoyable as well.
So a couple more that I remember as being worth watching: The Reef.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, that was a good one.
47 Meters Down.
Yeah,
that was also a good one. Yeah.
There's one I haven't watched it yet, but I've seen the trailer for. I think it's streaming now, where it's like either a bachelorette party or something. And they're on a boat, and they're out the boat. They're on the boat around the island, and
I watched that, and I'm trying to remember if that's The Reef or a different one.
I forget which one. And so that one looked interesting.
It was good.
And
if I think I'm getting 2 different ones confused.
Mm-hmm.
And
then closer to Jaws coming out, talking about ones inspired by, there is a movie called Orca, which is about a killer whale.
Yes.
With Richard Harris.
Yes. Yeah, I do remember seeing that movie on HBO like every other day.
Mm-hmm. And then Peter Benchley wrote a couple of other things that were adapted for TV.
I think the producers of Jaws they adapted The Island, I think.
Yeah. There's also The Beast.
Yeah.
Which was about the giant squid. So yeah, so
See, that would have been a great movie. The Beast versus Jaws. Amazing.
Well,
Oh, we did get Sharktopus. We did get
that's
Sharktopus. though.
exactly what I was getting ready to say.
Yeah.
I want to give a shout out. I legit love Sharktopus. I just thoroughly enjoyed that movie. I think
was
it's
it
solid.
and there was Mega Shark versus
Oh, there's
you know,
dozens
it's-
of them. We can't
Yeah,
get
yeah,
into
yeah.
them because
Oh
we
my
gotta
god,
wrap
and
this
some
thing
of them
up.
get really stupid. I mean, you know, we talked about
No,
I think
we
Rebecca
get the
like
Sharktopus
Sharknado,
waters,
but
and we're gonna.
or like
But
yeah,
we need like meth shark, you know, because we've got
Yeah.
cocaine
Well,
bear. We need
Cocaine
meth
Shark
shark
is
or
Cocaine
meth
Shark is
raccoon.
coming out.
yeah.
Okay,
That's
cocaine shark.
happening.
Nice.
Well, we
I
got to
remember-
wrap this thing up. We've gone almost 2 hours, but before
Okay.
we go, we need to know who you are, what are you up to, where can we find you online? Let's start with Rebecca.
You can find me on Facebook and Instagram under Monster Kid ATL. I'll be around this summer and fall at all of the spooky conventions around the Atlanta area, selling my vintage horror toys, and maybe I'll get another one of those cool JAWS games from the 70s that I can sell to one of you guys.
Yeah, I would definitely be interested. Award-winning Bobby Nash, what are you up to? Where can we find you?
BobbyNash.com is the website. I'm all over social media, and yes, I'm also at a lot of the conventions in and around the Georgia and Atlanta area. Actually, I think most of us will be at Monsterama. We should get together like a Jaws game as a panel.
Yeah,
That
be
could
fun.
be fun. Yeah.
Some of us will be there. Some of us might not.
Hopefully. But yeah, it's so yeah, but I'm all around. Please look me up, say hi.
And Mike Gordon, give
As
us
always,
the
my friend,
details.
it's been my pleasure. In addition to, you can check out the books that I'm working on, as well as other events that I'm going to be at. Monsterama, Dragon Con are coming up in August, of course. And the podcasting that I do, Bat Chums, where we talk about and review the 60s Bat series, Earth Station Who, where we talk about classic and new Doctor Who, as well as the Dragon Con Report, where we talk all about Dragon Con. So those are the podcasts. And I just started a new podcast. It's the middle of the soft launch, but it's called The New Legend Lounge, Candid Conversations with Creators. We've got 3 episodes that are up on YouTube. So there's going to be more of that to come. So thank you.
Hey,
Well,
and Batman fought a shark.
Batman did
That's
first.
right.
Yes,
That's
he
right.
did.
And I've noticed Bat Chums has hit Caped Crusader recently.
We did. We recently opened up a Patreon, and to our patrons and exclusive, we are reviewing and recapping each one of the episodes of Batman Cape Crusader. That's on Amazon. Great series. If you love Batman, the animated series, it's a great watch as well. It's a lot different than Batman 60s, but still worth watching if you haven't seen it.
Well, everyone, thank you so much for coming on and talking about Jaws and everything Jaws related. We've had a great time, and maybe 50 years from now, we'll get back together and we'll have a Jaws 19 to talk about. Thanks a lot, everybody.